morning, sports fans, and welcome to the 7th episode of Red Flag. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of last week's games, talk to you about what a handcuff is and how that might help you going forward. I want to take a little time and have a fantasy football confessional, one-to-one with you. After that, we're going to give a fantasy outlook on the week coming up. And then I want to have another little segment where I answer a few Twitter questions. Alright, so to kick it off, I want to talk about the Seattle-Cincinnati game. Way to go, Bengals. Andy Dalton throws for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns on the Legion of Boom. Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket. What's happening in Seattle? Thomas Rawls was a pleasant surprise, spelling beast mode, rushing for 169 yards, 1 touchdown. And Russell Wilson, nice little stat, is on pace to take 70 sacks this season. That either means one of two things. The O-line isn't protecting him well enough, or Russell's getting a little cocky and thinking that he can extend every single play and is getting blindsided by hits, trying to dance around in the pocket. Yeah, some things have to change in Seattle. They need to get the passing game more involved. Russell Wilson needs to make quicker decisions in the pocket. When you run, he just needs a dart. It's taking way too much time. On the other side of things, Cincinnati is rolling. They just need to keep doing what they're doing. Tyler Eifert is a pleasant surprise. Caught 8 balls for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Working Cam Chancellor. Surprise to me. So next up we have the New Orleans Saints versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia, of course, winning 39-17. Sam Bradford finally getting things going. 333 yards, 2 touchdowns. The $40 million man DeMarco Murray has it going. 83 yards, 1 touchdown. Ryan Matthews is behind him, pushing him. Touchdown for himself. No Philadelphia Eagle receiver is safe. Look at the box score. 10 different people caught passes in this game. No more than 5 receptions for any of them. The wealth is being spread far too thin, and that's not the type of security that you're looking for. On the other side of things, Drew Brees is still throwing up big numbers, 335 yards, 2 touchdowns, but it's not resulting in wins. Popular waiver wire addition William Snead, 6 receptions, 141 yards. Thank God for the waiver wire. Brandon Cooks is finally getting his little rhythm, 5 receptions, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. But the New Orleans defense can't stop anything. So, more than likely Drew Brees will be in shootouts, which is a good thing. So, it's going to be a good thing going forward to trust your Saints receivers, trust your Saints running backs, especially the ones that are pass catchers. Kerry Robinson, Mark Ingram, CJ Spiller. So I didn't get my upset, but you guys bore witness to this debacle. Denver versus Oakland. Denver escapes with a win on a Chris Harris pick 6 when Derek Carr was trotting downfield for a game-winning drive. Peyton Manning was abysmal in this one. 266 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those are the numbers we want for the future Hall of Famer. The run game, as expected, was non-existent. Emmanuel Sanders continues to be Peyton's favorite target, eating up receptions, eating up yards. 9 receptions, 111 yards. God. Derek Carr, I can trust him going forward. It's just he ran into a juggernaut in the Broncos defense. The Raiders defense showed up, so they're safe starts. I'm going to trust Amari Cooper for the rest of the year. Hopefully he takes that step from wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 1. We'll see. So who the hell is Josh McCown? 457 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Where in the world did this come from? Well, I mean, I could have told you. He was actually my plug-and-play quarterback this week because Ryan Tannehill was on a bye. Gary Barnidge, who is this tight end from where? 8 receptions, 139 yards, 1 touchdown. The Browns receivers are putting on for Josh McCown. They are getting yards after catch. They're making defenders miss. It is a thing of beauty. Baltimore, they're searching. They're missing their cash cow, Steve Smith Sr. Come back soon from his bruised ribs. Justin Forsett still rushing pretty well. Put up 121 yards on a pretty lackluster Cleveland Brown rushing defense. But now he's a little nicked up. Go ahead and trust Gary Barnidge going forward. I'm keeping Josh McCown on my roster for the record. I'm not sure about any specific Browns receiver outside of Travis Benjamin, but keep your eye on them because 457 yards is not just going to one person. So, yeah. Cleveland Browns. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't mention this game, but there were a lot of numbers thrown around, so I have to. Jacksonville versus Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston has a pretty pedestrian day, throwing for 209 yards, 1 touchdown, but Doug Martin, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 35 yards, and another touchdown in the air. Wow. And to think that 2 weeks ago, I let him go on the waiver wire. Someone picked him up. He's the number 1 person in my league right now. It's the way things go sometimes. On the other side, Jacksonville, Blake Bortles is continuing to impress, at least in the fantasy realm. 303 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the Allens, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, both reliable receivers. Both going to get you touchdowns, both that are going to get you high volume of receptions, both are going to get you a lot of yards. Trust Allen and Allen going forward. No surprises here. Coming out of the bye week, the New England Patriots slaughter the Dallas Cowboys 30-6. Tom Brady has 257 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dion Lewis, waiver wire pickup in week 2, continues to impress. 34 yards on the ground, 59 yards in the air on 8 receptions, and a touchdown, making 4 defenders miss. He would not be denied the end zone. Julian Edelman continues to rack up the yardage, picking up 4 receptions for 121 yards. Unfortunately, we didn't bear witness to any Gronk spikes, but I don't see that becoming a trend. On the other side of the ball, Dallas didn't have much going. Brandon Whedon had a pretty pedestrian game, throwing for 188 yards and 1 pick. Been benched this week for Matt Castle. Let's see what he does. I think he's a more able quarterback. I think he's going to get the receivers and Jason Witten more involved in the passing game. And pay attention to Darren McFadden. Picked up a lot of garbage time stats, but racked up a lot of receptions. 9 for 62 yards. Maybe with Matt Castle there, he gets Darren McFadden in some better spots, gives him the ball in space. Maybe Darren McFadden makes a few defenders miss. We'll see. So the Sunday night action was a gift to remember. Colin Kaepernick finally breaks out of his slump, throws for 262 yards, 2 touchdowns. Carlos Hyde gets it going on the ground, 93 yards, 1 touchdown. Anquan Bolden, 8 receptions, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. But it's not enough. The New York Giants were victorious 30-27. Eli throws for a monster, 441 yards, 3 touchdowns. Shane Vereen, another running back that I dropped and put on the waiver wire, had 8 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown, 24 yards on the ground. Colin Kaepernick goes up with, I want to say, 1:30 left. And anyone that has looked at Eli over the years knows that he does have a clutch gene. 1:30 is far too much time to leave with a Manning on the other side of the field. You should know better, Colin Kaepernick. You should know better. So Monday Night Football failed to disappoint. My Pittsburgh Steelers won 24-20 against the San Diego Chargers. Michael Vick was pretty pedestrian for 3.5 quarters, but caught the magic in the last half of the 4th quarter. 2 miraculous drives. 1 72-yard bomb to Marcus Wheaton. And on the next drive, a lot of rushes by Le'Veon Bell. We saw Michael Vick dazzle for a 22-yard gain. And with guts and glory, Mike Tomlin called Le'Veon Bell's number on the 1-yard line. Wildcat, touchdown. You guys know how it ended. Trust Le'Veon Bell going forward. With Antonio Brown, he's got 1 more week under the stewardship of Michael Vick. Tread softly. On the other side, Phillip Rivers threw for 365 yards, 2 touchdowns. Antonio Gates, his favorite target, is back. 9 receptions, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trust those 2 going forward. Keenan Allen's production might slip a little bit with Phillip Rivers' favorite target being back, but I don't think too much. That's a high-volume passing offense, and Phillip Rivers is going to spread the wealth. So for this next segment, I want to talk about what a handcuff is and why you need a handcuff. So these first few weeks of football, a lot of your running backs have gone down. Marshawn Lynch, Andre Ellington, LaShawn McCoy. And those running backs usually carry a lion's share of the rushing workload. So the next man up is normally going to get that same workload. So when it comes to a Marshawn Lynch, it's good to handcuff him with a Thomas Rawls. So when it comes late Sunday and Marshawn Lynch is ruled out, it's okay. Don't panic. You can bench Marshawn Lynch, plug and play Thomas Rawls, and get 169 yards and 1 touchdown. Might be useless next week, but this week you're saved. When it comes to running backs that need handcuffs in this league, I've got a few. Frank Gore, he's an old man. He's liable to get injured, even though through most of his career he's maintained pretty good health. Indianapolis just signed Ahmad Bradshaw, and Ahmad Bradshaw was the last running back of any relevance in Indianapolis, so I see him getting some work pretty early into his signing. Marshawn Lynch, Thomas Rawls, already talked about that. LaShawn McCoy and Carlos Williams. Even when LaShawn McCoy comes back, Carlos Williams has value. Especially with LaShawn being out, Carlos Williams' value rises. doesn't help that Carlos Williams is also injured himself, so there's a Boobie Dixon behind him. I don't trust him at all, and neither should you. And a good handcuff to have with an Andre Ellington, as you probably already noticed, is Chris Johnson, who's actually taken the running back one job. So those are a few handcuffs going forward that you should consider. So now, folks, I'd like to sit down with you and have a fantasy football confessional. Because although I love talking about fantasy football, I'm not perfect. Right now in my league, I am 3-2. Third in the league, second in points scored. Had some good moves, I've had some bad moves, and I've had a few questionable moves. So, some of the good moves of the Vicksburg Steelers this season. Drafting Amari Cooper in the 4th round has paid dividends. I think it wasn't too soon to grab him. It would have been nice to grab him later, but I think he would have been off the board. It's been a pleasant surprise. Hopefully he turns into a wide receiver 1 talent so that my dwindling talent at wide receiver can pick up. Another good move by Vicksburg Steelers was the Dion Lewis acquisition in week 2. He's the number 1 back unequivocally in New England, and it was a great pickup. And another great pickup during the draft was drafting Arizona Cardinals defense. I think only on one occasion did they give me less than 20 points. Arizona defense is explosive. They're getting turnovers, pick sixes. The special teams could go off for 100 yards at any given time. So picking up the Arizona defense was a good move. So a few questionable moves by the Vicksburg Steelers. I've been holding on to C.J. Anderson for 6 weeks now, and it feels like forever. What I'm hoping is as the season progresses and Peyton Manning regresses as you have seen, Denver leans on the running game, and hopefully C.J. Anderson regains some of that spark that he had last year. I hope. Letting go of Chris Johnson was a questionable move. I added him. Actually, no, I think I had him during the draft. I think he was maybe my last or second to last draft pick. I knew Andre Ellington was going to get injured. Andre Ellington gets injured every year. And after maybe one game, Chris Johnson didn't have such a great outing, so I dropped him for another player on the waiver wire. And given his performances in the last couple of weeks, I'm starting to regret it. And for my last questionable move, a move that happened 2 or 3 days ago, I traded Julio Jones for Devontae Freeman. Now my number 1 receiver is Amari Cooper. But I have Devontae Freeman, I have Dion Lewis, I have Frank Gore. 3 running back ones. So hopefully one of those running backs ends up getting me another receiver somewhere down the line, or hopefully one of my young receivers, Leonard Hankerson, Rashard Matthews, Tyler Lockett, starts to pick it up. And now on to the bad moves by Vicksburg Steelers. Letting go of Doug Martin. Doug Martin's in a contract year. They have a rookie quarterback. I knew Tampa Bay was going to lean on the run. And although Doug Martin didn't impress the first couple of weeks, his last week was monstrous. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 1 in the air, 153 yards on the ground. I see this trending upward. And yes, it was a terrible, terrible move. But that seems to be the only one that I think was just god-awful. The rest were questionable. Made a few good moves. We'll see how I look in another 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe I'll have this confessional again. So here's the fantasy outlook going forward. We had the Thursday night game, and Atlanta disappointed, losing to New Orleans 31-21. Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons had 5 fumbles in this game. Matt Ryan had 3 himself. They couldn't really get out of their own way. They were moving the ball when they had it. It's just at the end of all these drives, they were all punctuated by a terrible freaking fumble. Devontae Freeman continues to have monstrous outings. That's why I traded for him. Questionable move? I don't know. Julio Jones racked up yardage, had 6 receptions, 93 yards. Not really the performance that we'd like from Julio. Everyone expects 40 points from Julio every week. PPR league, 40. Drew Brees is on track. 312 yards and a touchdown. Who received the bulk of this yardage? Ben Watson. Who saw that? Going to be a popular waiver wire addition this week. Do I trust it? No. Mark Ingram had 2 touchdowns on the ground. And yeah, I mentioned him already. Benjamin Watson, 10 receptions, 127 yards, 1 touchdown. Seems a bit fluky to me. I think it's just because Atlanta was giving up the intermediate pass and Drew Brees was exposing it. Take it how you want it. So the next game I want to talk about is the Cincinnati-Buffalo game. Cincinnati's rolling 5-0. And they should roll on to 6-0. But it's not going to be easy. Buffalo defense is no pushover. Buffalo doesn't have the services of Tyrod Taylor, but it looks like Shady is going to push the envelope and get the start this weekend. Carlos Williams is still under concussion protocol. Sammy Watkins has been vocal about getting the ball, so expect him to get a lot of receptions in the short to intermediate throws, and look for him to get a lot of yards after the catch. I trust Sammy Watkins, even with E.J. Manuel at the helm. On the other side of the ball, Cincinnati, fire up your Tyler Eifert. Do not start Jeremy Hill. Do not start Jeremy Hill. Buffalo has a run-stopping defense, and Jeremy Hill runs north to south. Buffalo will stop that. Giovanni Bernard might be a safe start because he's going to catch balls out of the backfield, and that's going to be tough to deal with. If you have A.J. Green, you have to start A.J. Green, but outside of A.J., Eifert, and Gio, don't start any Cincinnati players. Maybe Andy Dalton if you need a plug and play. Buffalo, you can start LaShawn McCoy. You can start Sammy Watkins. Would I start anybody else? No. So next up is the Denver-Cleveland game. Josh McCown is rolling. The Cleveland wide receivers are putting on for Josh McCown, getting yards after the catch. Running backs Duke Johnson and Isaiah Correll are also rolling. I don't think this is the game that Denver's defense cleans up Peyton Manning's regression. I'm calling it another upset. Cleveland is going to beat Denver. I called Oakland to beat Denver last week. I was wrong by a margin of 6 points. Trust me on this one. Cleveland's going to get the victory. So, who to start? Start your Denver running backs. The Cleveland Browns has given up 100 yards on the ground all but one game this season. And I don't think C.J. Anderson's going to get 100, but he should break open some pretty good runs, maybe even get a touchdown. So all you C.J. Anderson owners, this is your make or break week. You have to start Emmanuel Sanders. He's Peyton Manning's favorite target. Demaryius Thomas does not belong on a bench ever. Start him. Don't start Peyton Manning. He's a bum. I'm erring on the side of caution and sitting Josh McCown because I've got Ryan Tannehill coming back. He's got a better matchup against Tennessee. But it might be safe to start Josh McCown. When it comes to your wide receivers for Cleveland, Travis Benjamin seems to be the only safe start. Gary Barnidge is going to get receptions. He's going to get many targets. Go ahead and start him. I don't really trust any particular of the two Cleveland running backs. So make the judgment call on your own. So this next game is must-see TV. Carolina Panthers versus the Seattle Seahawks. Two mobile quarterbacks with a lot to prove. Cam Newton is 4-0, looking to go 5-0. Russell Wilson is off to a rocky start, and he's looking to right the ship. And Marshawn Lynch is back. Seems like Seattle Seahawks are back when Marshawn Lynch is on the field. That doesn't fix the passing game, though. So Russell Wilson has to make some quick decisions in this one, especially against Carolina defense, who's very stout against the run. Cam Newton has a lot to prove because he's gone up against some pretty lackluster competition in his first 4 weeks. They were pretty much gimme games, and he's finally facing a pretty good defense. In this game, I trust Greg Olsen for the Carolina Panthers. I think tight ends feast on Seattle, and they will continue to feast. Jonathan Stewart has been a problem for Seattle in the past. He is very tough to take down. He's huge. And Carolina defense might be a safe start because they can stop the run, and that is Seattle's MO. Gotta start Marshawn Lynch if he's coming back, especially if you think he's fully healthy. Russell Wilson, he needs to have a renaissance game. Hopefully, he makes a lot more quick decisions, takes off when he needs to. We may be in store for a masterpiece. We may be in store for a debacle. I'm on the side that says we're in store for a debacle. I have Carolina winning this game, advancing to 5-0. So we've got San Diego versus the Green Bay Packers. The undefeated Green Bay Packers. I smell a shootout. San Diego has weapons on all sides of the field. They've got Antonio Gates back, Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, Danny Woodhead. Stevie Johnson's a little banged up. Malcolm Floyd is still a red zone threat. Aaron Rodgers is 5-0 though. He's got Cobb. He's got James Jones catching touchdowns almost every week. Ty Montgomery. Eddie Lacy should get things back on track this week. And look out for a Richard Rodgers, tight end. I think the Green Bay defense makes the difference in this one and wins against San Diego. It's safe to start Cobb. It's safe to start James Jones, Eddie Lacy. You might even give Ty Montgomery the nod. San Diego side, I'd start Keenan Allen. I'd start Antonio Gates, Melvin Gordon, Danny Woodhead, Phillip Rivers. There's going to be a lot of numbers thrown around in this game. Shootout. For this next game, I'm picking with my heart, not my head. Arizona Cardinals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Does Mike Vick have another game-winning drive in him? Yes. Hesitantly. Arizona defense is very, very formidable. They've got one of the best pass defenses in the league. They can stop the run. I don't see how Mike Vick gets out of this one alive, but I have faith. I have faith in Le'Veon Bell. I have a little bit of faith in Mike Vick because he seems to be a hard quarterback to game plan against right now. Seeing that, I feel like they're going to change the game plan with him week to week in Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown's been pretty vocal about getting the ball, and look for him to get the ball early in some bubble screens, maybe some crossing patterns, whatever it takes for the pigskin to get in Antonio Brown's hands. It's been explored. Le'Veon Bell is a very safe start. If you have Antonio, you have to start him, even though these last few weeks he hasn't really returned his value to you, but go ahead and give him the nod. Don't start Michael Vick. That's a mistake. I'm starting my Arizona defense this weekend, and it hurts me, but I mean, that's my head starting the Arizona defense. On the Arizona side, I think Carson Palmer is going to be a safe start, but he's not going to get you great numbers because Pittsburgh defense has picked it up. Even the secondary is putting on. If you have Larry Fitzgerald, you have to start Larry Fitzgerald. Chris Johnson, if he can get to the edge, that'll be good. And he should warrant a start. Other than that, we're going to see a pretty low-scoring game. But I have Pittsburgh edging out the win. For the Sunday night action, we have the Deflate Gate rematch. New England, Indianapolis. It's no secret. Tom Brady is hell-bent on showing the league that he doesn't need deflated balls to throw for 300-plus yards, 2 touchdowns. He's going to slaughter the Indianapolis Colts defense this week. Start all your Patriots. Hell, give Aaron Dobson a nod because Tom Brady may just throw every single snap. Wow. Start all your Patriots. Indianapolis is getting Andrew Luck back, so they're going to have to take part in this shootout. I expect a lot of Andrew Luck interceptions, but if you are an owner of Andrew Luck, you know that that's just part of the game. He's also going to get you 300-plus yards. He's going to get you touchdowns. So start Andrew Luck, start T.Y. Hilton, start Frank Gore. Ahmad Bradshaw's back, which is really interesting. I mean, he's the last running back in Indiana of any relevance. So I expect him to get a pretty decent workload early. Outside of those people, I think maybe a Kobe Fleener or a Dwayne Allen could be safe starts, but none of the Indianapolis receivers really jump out at me besides T.Y. Hilton. Maybe Andre Johnson gets a little burn because he's got T.Y. to take the pressure off of him, but those are the only receivers I like for the Colts. So for the Monday night action, we've got the New York Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles. New York's coming off a great game-winning drive by Eli Manning, and Eli's rolling. He's hot now. New York Giants defense, though, has some gaping holes, especially in the secondary. But we all know it's Chip Kelly's MO to run the ball. So this game's really unpredictable. I expect a pretty low-scoring outing by Philadelphia, somewhere between 10 and 17 points. And I feel the same's coming from New York. But I think New York has enough weapons on offense and in the passing game to edge this one out. So I've got New York taking it. Is it safe to start Eli? Yes, it's safe to start Eli. Start Odell Beckham. I hate to say it, but go ahead and start Shane Vereen, even though I dropped him. On the other side of the ball, Sam Bradford looks like he's getting things rolling. Go ahead and start him. Start DeMarco. Start Ryan Matthews. I don't expect big numbers from DeMarco, but if you have him, you got to start him. And you all know how I feel about the Philadelphia Eagles receivers. You can't trust one of them because Sam Bradford's going to pass to all of them, and that's going to spread the wealth too thin. So I like New York in this one. Take it to the bank. For this last segment, I want to respond to a few Twitter questions that I've seen these past couple of days. So, first off, to Two Birds, One Stoner. Start or sit Julius Thomas or Larry Donnell? This one's very, very tough. Julius Thomas is Jacksonville tight end. He's going up against Houston, who's given up a lot of points to tight ends. Had Travis Kelce in the first week, Greg Olsen week 2, Austin Seferian-Jenkins week 3, even got Jacob Tamme in week 4. On the other side of things, the New York Giants have receivers that are nicked up. Odell Beckham's not 100%. Ruben Randall came out of the last game, which really leaves Donnell, Shane Vereen, and their slot receiver, Dwayne Harris. I like Larry Donnell in this one because of Eli's options. So, where both of them are good picks, I don't think you can go wrong with Larry Donnell, especially because he's Eli's red zone target. So, Two Birds, One Stoner, start Larry Donnell. I've made my decision. At Jenny Lab, start or sit LaShawn McCoy or Jeremy Hill? No brainer, start LaShawn McCoy. Buffalo has a run-stopping defense, and Jeremy Hill is not going to benefit this game. LaShawn McCoy's coming back prematurely from an injury, but he seems to be one of their only weapons going forward, especially with E.J. Manuel manning the helm and not Tyrod Taylor. So I say start LaShawn McCoy this weekend, sit Jeremy Hill. At Henry_Proano, start 3. Allen Robinson, Dante Moncrief, John Brown, Allen Hurns. Out of those 4, I think it's a no-brainer. Start both of the Allens, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns. They've proven to be pretty reliable targets for Blake Bortles this season. When it comes to the other 2, it's a little tough, but I'm going to give the edge to John Brown, even though Andrew Luck's coming back and Dante Moncrief was one of his favorite targets. I like John Brown against a pretty leaky Pittsburgh secondary. So those are my 3. Allen Robinson, John Brown, Allen Hurns, sit Dante Moncrief. At Smidge3420003. This one's interesting. Should I pick up Matt Castle as a second quarterback and bench Bortles this week and maybe look at genius? Perhaps if the Dallas Cowboys weren't on a bye week, you'd look like a genius. But if you start Matt Castle, I guarantee you will get 0 points this week. So, not quite the genius that you intended to be perceived as, Mr. Smidge. But, is he a good pickup in week 7? Yes. Go ahead. At Theo Thinks 23. Start or sit Ryan Tannehill or Eli Manning? Tannehill's going up against what's been touted as the best passing defense in the league in the Tennessee Titans. Eli Manning is going up against a more leaky secondary in Philadelphia. I think this one's a no-brainer. If I had Eli, I'd start Eli over Tannehill. Eli's going to feast on Philadelphia in this divisional matchup. So start Eli Manning, sit Ryan Tannehill. At J-Boy and Colty, start or sit Colin Kaepernick or Peyton Manning? This one's hilarious in my opinion because Peyton Manning has regressed to the point where we're asking who are you going to start or sit, Colin Kaepernick or Peyton Manning? Colin Kaepernick's been terrible, and so is Peyton Manning. In this one, I'm going to give Colin Kaepernick the nod because he's going up against a Baltimore defense that has been pretty giving to quarterbacks since week 1. Even gave up 37 points to the Oakland Raiders. And Peyton Manning's going up against a very hot Cleveland team who might not really have the weapons on defense, but I still think Cleveland's going to pull through with this one. I think Kaepernick's going to throw up some pretty decent numbers against Baltimore, so start Colin Kaepernick. He's going to get you yards on the ground too. That's all for this weekend, sports fans. Explore those handcuffs. Have a good week. Take care.